Titans made some cuts over the weekend, and the most notable was John Simon. And Zach, I don't know if you watched or not, but Buck, Luke, and I did our 53-man roster prediction on Friday afternoon. It was a great show. A lot of you guys watched. But all three of us had John Simon entrenched. We had zero doubts about John Simon making this roster at outside linebacker. And I tweeted this yesterday that I would bet almost every Titans media member would think that John Simon was making this roster, but he didn't. He got cut, and he was one of the first groupings of cuts. Now, they waived linebacker Cash Malua, who they just signed last week. They waived DB Nate Brooks, who honestly I did not know was on the team. They waived safety Clayton Gathers, who had a turnover in the Bucs preseason game, and they waived the D lineman Freedom Aiken, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the rest of that. And they put Brian Hill on IR, and then Ben Jones, another starter, goes on the COVID list. But again, Brian Hill going on IR, he wasn't making the team, in my opinion. None of the other guys I thought were making the team, but John Simon did catch me off guard because I really thought he gave them a veteran presence who was versatile to play the outside linebacker, edge rusher position, who made plays throughout training camp, rushing the passer against the run and in coverage, which is basically the entire position duties. And they cut him. Were you surprised by this? Because it was very shocking that he was not even he was probably considered an easier cut because they made it on Saturday afternoon.
So obviously during training camp, I spent 2 weeks in Dallas away. So I was not attuned to the roster as you and Luke were, but I will say this. So I don't want to overspeak and form an uneducated opinion, but I will say this. I did, from an outsider's perspective, I still followed what, A to Z was doing in the coverage in my Twitter timeline. And it seemed like he was having a good camp. It seemed like he was well respected. It seemed like he was well received in his play, and he was practicing, hard and doing all the right things. So, I think there was a bit of a surprise. Plus, that position, right? We know that is a position of need. You spoke about all the things in the versatility that he brought. John Robinson, I guess at this point, again, you can't count anything out unless, another team goes and signs him. But at this point, it doesn't look like he fit their plans.
Which is very strange because we're not allowed to talk about so-and-so player was running with the starters or such and such is running with the second string. But I will say this, John Simon was higher in the rotation than Derek Roberson, Wyatt Ray, and others at that position. And that is why I feel like it was a surprise for him to get cut, because I feel like he was one of those guys that you could rely on for a few snaps a game.